mic to camera off, camera on, please feel free to go for that just now. Oh, there we go. And yeah, I'll do a few quick introductions. So there's actually 3 of us from our People in Place team in HITRANS here in this webinar today. Myself, I'm Sheila, I'm the Smart Travel Choices Officer. We also have Becca, who's our Integrated Transport Manager, and Emily, who's the People in Place Programme Manager. We're also really grateful we've got our 3 guest speakers who've been part of the 25-26 grant programme. So we've got Craig Masterton from Inverness Cally Thistle Community Hub, and Ewan McIntosh from High Life Island Botanics in Inverness, and also Donald Hall from Badenoch and Strathspey Community Connections. So it's great that you've all joined us today. And we won't do the introductions around the room, but feel free when we get to the Q&A, if you've got stuff to ask, say who you are. It'd be great to hear who you are and a bit more about you. So that'd be great. I'll do a quick overview of what we'll cover today. We'll begin with a short introduction to HITRANS and also the National People in Place programme that these grants sit within. Then we'll briefly explore why active travel infrastructure matters, how it helps support healthier, lower carbon and inclusive communities. And then after that, we'll move into the detail above our 26-27 grant programme. Now, there's some updates from last year, so we'll talk clearly through what's changed and who's eligible to apply. And we'll also cover what makes a strong application based on our experience of administering this scheme. Also new this year, very exciting for us, is that we've got a new grant platform. So we'll cover that in a bit more detail. We've made a few changes as well in what we're asking for applicants. We'll give you a taste of that, so you'll see what to expect. And then, of course, we've got our guest speakers. We're really excited that they'll be able to share their experiences. And we've got 2 projects that were from the Workplace Grant, and then 1 from the Cycle Community Cycle Parking Grant. So they'll share what they've learned about their projects, and then we'll finish up with the Q&A session and outline the next steps if you're considering applying. So yeah, throughout this session, if you've got questions, feel free to stick them in the chat. We probably won't pick them up as we go, but then it means you won't lose them if you if something occurs to you as you go, and it means we've got a record of them. So here we have a map that shows our HITRANS area. We've got a large area. HITRANS is one of the 7 regional transport partnerships which were established through the Transport Scotland Act in 2005. We cover the Western Isles, Orkney, Highland, Moray and most of Argyll and Bute. We work closely with local authorities, Scottish Government, Transport Scotland, High and transport operators and NHS boards, and also the national parks, as well as many other partners. Our role is to improve transport services and infrastructure across the Highlands and Islands and on key routes that connect the region. The grants we're discussing today are funded through the National People in Place programme, which began in 2024 and is funded by Transport Scotland. The People in Place is a place-based behaviour change programme designed to make walking, wheeling and cycling the natural choice for everyday journeys. And all of our funded activity contributes to the National Active Travel Framework outcomes, which are to increase the numbers of people walking, wheeling and cycling for short journeys, to make active travel safer for all, and also to ensure that walking, wheeling and cycling are available to everyone. So first of all, why are we investing in active travel infrastructure? Well, firstly, active travel helps improve health and well-being. Regular walking and cycling support both physical and mental health, reducing risk of long-term conditions and improving overall quality of life. Secondly, it reduces transport emissions. So when short everyday trips shift from car to walking or cycling, reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve local air quality. And it all supports with equity and helps address transport poverty. When safe and accessible infrastructure is in place, people who don't have access to a car or who can't drive have more independence and more opportunity. So importantly, infrastructure enables the behaviour change. Engagement and promotion are also really important, but we also need safe, visible, convenient infrastructure. And it's very difficult for people to make lasting change in how they travel without that. Our grant programme is focused specifically on infrastructure that supports everyday local journeys, so helping make active travel the obvious and practical choice. Other aspects of the People in Place programme specifically target local engagement activities across all the HITRANS region. So we've got some really lovely and exciting projects right across the area. And if you'd like to find out more, we have our evaluation report from the programme from 24-25, which is on the HITRANS website, and there's some really lovely case studies in that. So I do recommend having a look. Yeah, so we have 2 infrastructure grants under the People in Place programme. Although both support active travel, they're designed for different settings and different types of organisations. So it's really important to identify which one applies to you. I think Becca's going to cover this next section.
Yep, so I manage the community cycle parking grant. So this sits under the transport integration strand of the People in Place programme, and it's designed to support publicly accessible locations. So for target locations, we're looking at places like community hubs, sports facilities, community centres, housing areas, and transport hubs as well. So essentially just spaces that serve the wider public. And for eligible uses, funding can go towards installing cycle shelters and stands. And this includes non-standard shelters. So we funded a shed, just a regular garden shed, on one of the Orkney Islands, as it was kind of easier to get delivered and just suited the project site better. The funding can also be used to improve or repair existing cycle parking infrastructure and also provide cycle repair stands or pumps. And then looking at kind of who can apply, this grant is open to public sector and third sector organisations, and it's specifically aimed at increasing access for the wider public. Site permissions do need to be in place at the point of application, and projects typically range in value from about £1,000 up to £10,000.
So I'm going to give a bit more information about the Active Travel Workplace Grant. So the Workplace Grant is focused specifically on staff commuting and business travel. It supports employers to make it easier for their staff to walk, wheel or cycle to work, or to travel actively during the working day. So this grant is open to the public sector, to the private sector and to third sector employers. The private sector organisations match funding is required. Projects typically cost between £500 and £10,000. The lower range would cover, for example, a doctor bike event, and the more expensive projects would involve construction work costs. So that might be internal projects such as showers, changing facilities, or storage for outdoor clothing. And then the external projects cover things like a range of cycle parking options and support. So we've got a few more examples of the eligible items. So they might be things like a standard cycle parking shelter or a secure shelter that's locked, that gives a bit more security. Oh, I'm getting a little echo there. It also might cover other aspects of improving the site, such as working on drainage, lighting, or replacing damaged perspex on a shelter, or even improving or adding an access path. The Workplace Fund also covers e-bike charging facilities or bike repair stands, and also pull bikes for the workplace and associated equipment such as storage or maintenance equipment. And it also covers doctor bike sessions. We do have a few other bits to cover about the Workplace Grant. So yes, we need site permissions in place before the point of application. And it's also just worth flagging that projects at private residences are not eligible. So we've got a few photos that just to look at some examples of projects that will show some of that infrastructure in practice. Put these up.
Yep, so here we have one funded with the Community Cycle Parking Grant, and this was a secure cycle shelter installed at West End Primary School in Murray, and they decided to go for a nice red colour, just to kind of brighten up the playground. And then this one here is obviously a different style of shelter. It's a bit more open, and it was installed at the bus station in Stornoway. And then also the blue repair stand as well was funded through the grant. And then this is one of the 17 secure cycle pods that were installed around Raigmore Estate in Inverness, which allows residents of all the surrounding flats to access secure cycle storage. And Sheila and I recently did a site visit, and we learned that a few residents have actually purchased bikes because they now have access to this storage, which was really great to hear.
So I've got a few photos of the sorts of infrastructure that has gone in as part of the Workplace Grant Fund. So here we've got a bike repair stand, which is at CrossFit Cairngorm Gym in Aviemore. They also added some cycle parking and a shelter through other funding streams, but the repair stand is also a great addition there. We've got some e-bike charging facilities at LifeScan in Inverness. So these you can see are in an existing cycle shelter. And they allow people with e-bikes to charge their batteries whilst at work. And then our last photo just now is we've got a lovely new workplace pool e-bike and the storage that keeps that. That's it with NHS Western Isles over in Uist. So these are just some examples of the sorts of things people get through the fund.
So now looking at the guidance for this year, before you begin your application, we strongly recommend reading the relevant guidance documents in full. Each grant has its own guidance available to download from the HITRANS website. For the Community Cycle Parking Grant, there are two versions of the guidance. So one is for public and third sector organisations applying for individual projects. And then the second is specifically for local authorities who typically submit multi-site applications. And local authority applicants are also asked to include a prioritisation list within their submission. And there's also a template available to download for this on the website. And this helps us that if demand does exceed available budget, just to focus on funding the most strategic and high impact projects.
Excellent. And similarly, you can see two other documents on the screen there. There's a couple of documents of guidance for the Workplace Active Travel Grant. Got the detailed guidance document, which outlines eligibility, the match funding requirements for private sector applicants, which we'll cover in a bit more in this session, and also the site permissions and some more examples of the types of projects we're looking to support. We've also got a slightly more informal, frequently asked questions document, which addresses common queries and some practical considerations. Across all these documents, you'll find detailed information to help you plan your project and understand how the applications are assessed. They're designed to answer many of your initial questions, so we really encourage you to have read the relevant guidance to what your situation is, and then you're welcome to arrange a one-to-one discussion with us. In many cases, you might find a lot of your initial questions are in these documents, but we're absolutely delighted to speak to any of you sort of individually just to pick up any of your questions and help you plan your project. It's also worth flagging just now that there's some really excellent guidance produced by Cycling Scotland. We include links to this guidance in our own guidance documents, and which are on our website. Yeah, it's just really great. It's clearly written, it's really practical and comprehensive, and importantly, it's only around 8 pages long, so it's not a time-consuming read. We find a lot of applicants, especially from the workplace grant scheme, are totally new to this sort of work. So we just really encourage you to take the time to review this guidance. It highlights lots of practical considerations that could easily be overlooked, such as site preparation, checking for underground services, thinking about lighting, drainage, wind exposure and security. And also has some really great design principles around inclusivity and accessibility. And just thinking about the user experience, such as siting close to main entrances, that sort of thing. So our scoring process really quite well aligns with the guidance in this, so it's definitely worth having a look. Obviously, if you're looking at projects for the workplace grant that are more internal, such as changing facilities, they won't be covered in this guidance because this is for cycle parking. But yeah, if you're looking at an external cycle parking piece of work, that's a really great piece of guidance to look at. We do find some applicants, particularly local authority officers and other experienced estate teams, may be really familiar with doing this sort of work and know about the kind of issues covered in this guide. But we find for lots of our organisations, people often come to our grant and they might have previous experience that's not, previous experience that's maybe a little limited in doing this kind of work. So it's really helpful just to go through this and get some of the key points. So, what makes a strong application? So, based on our experience of assessing the applications and visiting funded projects, we see some really clear patterns. Firstly, impact. When applying, be really specific about who will benefit, how many people are likely to use the infrastructure, and what meaningful change it will enable. Strong applications clearly explain how the project removes barriers to walking, wheeling, and cycling. So, whether that's safety, convenience, or making journeys possible that weren't practical before. Secondly, planning and deliverability. Now, we're asking for a simple monthly timeline and a risk register now in our application. This isn't about bureaucracy, it's just about readiness. We know that sometimes projects can face delays, whether that's supplier lead times changing or competing works at the site or just increasing costs as the project progresses, and even just weather issues. So these things happen, and what we're looking for is evidence that you've anticipated them and built in some flexibility to your project plan. If challenges arise, please talk to us early. We can't necessarily remove every obstacle. We can sometimes help you navigate them. We're also looking for a named delivery lead and a backup contact, and confirmation that your organisation has the internal capacity to support and deliver the project within the funding period. Thirdly, we're looking at design and usability. Even small infrastructure projects benefit from careful thought about siting and the user experience. So lighting, drainage, these sorts of things, and how people actually use the space. We do consider strategic fit, which isn't something you can necessarily change in your application, but we are looking to support applications from settlements that we've already identified as priority. And then finally, we're looking at practical readiness. So having your permissions in place is a huge help. And this might be whether it's internal and our senior management sign off, or permission from landlords, that sort of thing, that can help. And also just getting all your quotations in from suppliers and contractors, that makes a big difference. Overall, the strongest applications clearly demonstrate the impact they'll have realistic planning, and they've demonstrated delivery capacity. So for those of you who've applied to the programme before, we have made a few updates for 26-27. There's a lot that stayed the same, but there's a few changes. So we'll just go through what's changed just now. Firstly, the applications will be submitted through an online portal rather than by email. We're also requiring that applications provide a second contact for their organisation. I think this is optional with the community cycle parking grant, but I've got it as required in the workplace grant. And as mentioned earlier, we've built a simple milestone timeline directly into the application form, along with a basic risk register. These additions are designed to strengthen the project planning at the outset and support a smoother delivery for those that are successful. Under projects, for funded projects, we'll also introduce a lightly sort of a light touch monthly check-in. So we used to do quarterly sort of reporting that felt quite formal. So this is a sort of just a shift to have more regular contact, and it's not intended to be onerous. They're just there to keep projects on track and to allow it to be easy to have early discussion if challenges arise. We've also updated our guidance documents, so even if you've applied before, we do recommend reviewing the latest versions carefully. And then another change just to flag just now is that for the Active Travel Workplace Grant, we're asking private sector applicants to provide some match funding. This aligns us more with other RTPs across Scotland, and we do have some flexibility for smaller organisations. So if you're unsure, please get in touch to discuss your situation. We've also got in our guidance a little bit more information about the process, so which covers the pre-application, so just now if you're considering applying, right way through to if you are successful, the project delivery, and then on into monitoring and evaluation. Overall, these updates are just about improving clarity, strengthening delivery of the project, and just ensuring that the public funding that we're receiving from Transport Scotland can do maximum impact to support active travel uptake across our area.
Okay, so before we go into just a brief demo of the new application portal that we've got, I just want to give you a quick summary of the new platform benefits. We're really excited that this has now been set up because it's completely new for us, and it's a really great way now to go forward to manage the grants. So everything from submitting your application to then managing your project once it's approved will happen through this platform. So it's not just for the application itself, it also covers full project administration, which will hopefully make things much clearer and more organised. So you will need to set up an account, and then once you're in, you will see a save and return feature. And this means that you can start your application, save your progress, and then come back to it later without losing anything, which will be really helpful if you need to kind of go away and gather more information or gain some approvals. So I will just share my screen and give a quick demo of the new portal. So you'll be able to find a link to the portal on our website. If you just go into our projects and programs, and then you'll see the People in Place program here. And then underneath here, you'll see this little section for the grants. And then within this section, there's kind of just general information about the grants, and then the link is just here. So when you first open this up, you'll be asked to put in your email address here, and then you will be sent a verification code, basically just to set up your account, and then you can log in. There are instructions as well in the guidance exactly how to set up your account, so don't worry about remembering it. So this is the screen that you'll see when you first log in, just some information about the grants and just our contact details as well if you need any support throughout the application process. And then you will see the two grants here, so just make sure obviously that you're selecting the right one that you want to apply to. Hit Start Application, and that will bring up the application form. There is also a countdown in the top right hand side corner, which is quite useful. So we'll just ask you some kind of basic information first, just to confirm that you're eligible to apply, and then just some general information as well about you, contact information, and we encourage you to put in a secondary contact as well. Then just some general information about your organisation, so the type of organisation that you are, and again, just contact details. And then something kind of important to note as well is just whether or not you are VAT registered. So we will not cover any reclaimable VAT in the grant award. So just make sure you exclude VAT from your funding request if your organisation is VAT registered and can reclaim these costs. So we'll then just ask you a little bit about your project, a brief description, the location of it, and if it's located within any of these priority areas, which there's a key on the right hand side that you can basically figure out which ones apply to your location. And then the kind of second half of this is just more around monitoring and evaluation. So we'll just ask about your outcomes and any indicators that you're that you'll choose to monitor the impact, and then also your methods as well for monitoring and evaluation. And then the next section is just around kind of how you're going to plan your project and how you'll deliver it. So some information about the kind of permissions that you need to get before you apply, think about if you might need formal planning permission after your funding's been awarded. And then we have two tables here. So the first one is a risk register. So we're basically just asking you to identify any risks that you think might happen and how you plan to mitigate them. So for example, if, obviously over the winter months, the weather isn't great. So you probably will not plan to do your main kind of installation on those months. But if that was the case, kind of how you might plan that to stop it being too much of an issue. And then this one as well, just a kind of breakdown of your planned activities throughout the funding year. So getting in contact with suppliers, and then you might order your infrastructure kind of in July. Again, just to kind of help us see what stage you should be at during each month. And then the next tab is just all about costs. So obviously the total cost of your project, any information about match funding that you might have, and then just a list of all your costs here as well, which will automatically total up at the bottom. Also just important to note that both grants are capital funds, so staff time and internal management costs won't be covered, and any other revenue costs as well won't be covered. And then finally, this is just a section to upload relating documents to your application. So we do require your quotes or estimates from suppliers or contractors, so that we know that your application is as accurate as possible in terms of costs. But then we do also have the option to upload anything else that you want to that you think is relevant to your application. So any maps or site plans, yeah, just kind of anything you think might support your application. And then once you've finished all of that, this will say submit application. And yeah, that's it. But there's a little bit more information in the guidance to support with this. And if you do have any questions, you can just get in touch with either Sheila or myself. So I will let Sheila share her screen again. Oh, Sheila, you're muted, I think.
There we go. I'm off mute. Yeah, and we've got a couple more slides before we get to our guest speakers and then our Q&A. So just want to just flag up the timetables for both grants. I mean, they're fairly clear. They're in the guidance or on our website. It's just worth noting they both opened on the 16th of February, but they've got a slightly different timeline after the launch. So just please pay attention and check you're clear on the deadline of the grant you wish to apply for. So the community cycle parking grant, as you can see, it closes on the 13th of April, and the workplace grant is going to close on the 15th of May, a little bit later. We'd strongly encourage you not to leave it to the last few days, particularly if you want to get in touch and just ask questions, or if you need to get permissions or gather your supporting documents. We've factored into our processes a little bit of time after the deadline just to get back to anybody. So if you've submitted and there's maybe something missing, we'll just double check all the applications have all they should have, and then we'll go into a period of scoring and reviewing. And then we've got, again, both have got slightly different dates for notification of successful projects. So just pay attention to our different timetables. Oh, hang on, I've skipped a slide. Sorry, I'm going to go back one now. Sorry about that. Got overexcited in there. So yeah, it's worth going to our scoring criteria also. This is covered in the guidance documents, but it's just worth covering just now also. We just want to make sure that we're using a fair and transparent assessment process. So both grants have got structured scoring frameworks, and each application is scored against weighted criteria. And then the final decisions will take into account both the score and then our overall budget availability into account. So Becca, do you want to go into the cycle parking grant?
Yeah, so There are different scoring criteria depending on whether or not the applicant is a local authority or a non-local authority. So the one on the left-hand side is for non-local authority applicants and focuses on the impact of the project, project planning and deliverability, and the design and usability of the project. For local authorities, it will be slightly different as we will use their prioritisation list as kind of the main criteria, but we will also consider the project's locations and how well planned each site is.
So the Workplace Active Travel Grant, we've got 4 main areas for scoring. The highest weighted criteria are impact and project planning and deliverability. So this reflects the importance we place on projects that will be making a meaningful difference and that are clearly ready to be delivered. We're also going to be looking at design and usability, so ensuring infrastructure is practical and aligned with best practice to offer benefits to the users, such as near main entrances, that sort of thing, protected from the elements. And then finally, we'll also consider strategic fit and priority location. And this will include that alignment with the regional priorities and key travel to work areas, as well as settlements with higher social deprivation. But that's our least weighted of all our categories. From our total system for scoring for that, we've got a total of 36 points for the Workplaces grant. So I'll skip the slide that I jumped out of turn. So here we go. This is our final section before we go into our case studies. So just to finish up, we want to look at what applying will look like and the key next steps if you're thinking of submitting. First of all, review the guidance. Do have a proper look at the grant guidance and the frequently asked questions document on our website, especially because we've covered, there's a few updates this year. If you're planning a cycle parking project in particular, we really think it's worth looking at the Cycling Scotland guidance. It's a really great best practice resource and can help you think through the design, layout, accessibility, security, and even types of infrastructure before you get too far down the line. Secondly, plan your project. Take some time to properly assess your site, think about opportunities and also limitations such as space, access, visibility, lighting, and security. It's really helpful to speak to staff or users early on about what would make what would help them to choose to cycle. So what kind of facilities would they value? This might help you not only design something that works, but also helps to build that internal support for your project early on. Don't forget to identify the permissions or approvals you might need, whether that's internal in your organisation, such as estates or facilities or senior management, or if you're in a rented property for your business, landlords, factors, they might all need to be contacted to get permission before you go ahead. And third, get support. Please don't feel you to figure this out alone. We're really happy to help with early conversations and answer questions or give feedback on outline ideas. That can be either a quick email or you can plan a call with us. And if you get this in early, it might help save you a bit of time and strengthen your application. And finally, prepare your application. When you're ready, go and get set up on the platform with your login and just start putting in your contact details about the project. You can start with the basics and build it up as your plans firm up. And just to emphasise, we've got that tip on the slide. Planning early really does help make a difference. It can help you design a stronger project and clearly demonstrate the impact that you're hoping to achieve, which is just exactly what we're looking for. We've genuinely really enjoyed seeing the diversity of projects supported in years 1 and 2, from straightforward but high impact cycle parking installations to some more ambitious infrastructure improvements. And it's just been really inspiring to see how all the different organisations have approached this in a way that suits their context. Really hoping this next round brings both returning applicants and some new people as well. So if you're sitting there thinking, hey, maybe this could work for us, we'd love to hear from you. We've got our contact details on the final slide, so you'll see that right at the end. And do just get in touch, even if it's to test an idea. We're really excited to hear what you've come up with and help you shape it into a strong application. So we have our case studies. So one of our favourite parts of the session, we get to hear directly from the organisations who've delivered projects through our programme. It is one thing for us to go through the criteria and the processes, but it's much more valuable and it really comes alive to hear from people who've gone through it and delivered real projects on the ground. We're delighted today to have three guest speakers. We have Ewan McIntosh from High Life Highland Botanics in Inverness. We've got Craig Masterton from Inverness Cally Thistle Community Hub. And we've also got Donald Hall from Badenoch and Strathspey Community Connections. So between them, they represent workplace projects and community cycle projects. They'll hear a range of perspectives. And we're just really grateful they've taken the time to come along today and to share their experiences with us. Ewan, you're first up on the slide. Are you happy to go first?
Yes, I'm happy. I'll just share my screen just now.
Okie doke. I'll mute.
You got that? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Thanks for asking me, Sheila, and thanks for the support you've given and encouraging me to apply for the grant and the advice you've given along the way. To be honest, I was thinking there was only going to be 4 or 5 people on this. I wasn't expecting quite such an audience, so I feel under a bit of pressure. And I thought I was third on the list as well, so I feel a bit intimidated about going first. So to tell you about the project, so it's like a workshop and storage project at the Botanic Gardens. Just a little bit of background on the botanics. I'll keep it really brief. We have around 40 staff in total, and that's split between the cafe, the Grow project, and the gardens themselves. We also have around 30 volunteers. Volunteers help with working in the gardens, but they also help support our ASN clients. Our additional support need clients are grow gardeners, and they participate for horticultural therapy within the gardens. And currently we have 45 additional support need clients that attend regularly. And I'll move on to the next. I'll move on to my next slide. Oh no, hang on, it's frozen. There we go. A lot of these guys already cycle in, so the gardens have a really strong ethos and a strong environmental ethos and promote well-being, and that's reflected by the lifestyle choices a lot of the staff and volunteers choose. So a lot do cycle in already, but many don't, and being able to have an option of secure and safe cycle storage for them will be really useful. We don't have any dedicated bike storage at the moment. They tend to get left outside, scattered around the gardens. On rainy days, we pile them into polytunnels. Bike handlebars play havoc with polytunnel skins, so it's not ideal. Our original idea when we first considered applying for this grant was buying a dedicated cycle shed. Asgard supply these amazing looking sheds, and that's what we thought we'd get a couple of them, because we can have 20 plus bikes scattered about the gardens at the moment, and that's what we thought we would go for. When we looked at the practicalities of putting these purpose-built sheds up, realised that the groundworks for them was going to be a real pain and much more expensive than we thought, and putting in any electricity was going to be a bit of a hassle as well, and there was going to be an expense involved in that. And also we had the opportunity to see one of them, and without an electric supply, they're really dark inside. And it just didn't feel the right fit. During COVID, the Cameron Barracks donated 6 porta cabins to us, and we thought it was great at the time, but since they've been in place, and that's about 5 years now, we've not really used them. They've become a bit of a dumping ground for stuff and sort of random tool storage, and they're cluttered. They're leaking, and they become a bit of a white elephant. But we thought with a bit of funding we could repurpose them. There's an example of how cluttered they've gathered, that they've become over time. They were used as a kitchen unit for the Cameron Barracks, and they were all kind of bolted together. So the places where there should be windows and doors have just got sterling board on them. So they need a bit of TLC, and the grant money has allowed us to do that. It's a work. We've also got a leaky shed that we're converting as well. So the whole by using the existing infrastructure we've got, we've had to change the way we work and reorganize how we work, where we have our tea room, where we have our tools. So that's created a challenge in itself, but it's absolutely the right thing in terms of repurposing what we've got and making better use of the infrastructure we have already. It's a work in progress at the moment. So our contractors were due in Monday morning, but they've not turned up because they've been hijacked for another job. So we're rescheduling another date for them. So I've got a meeting with them this week to get them started for next week. They're confident the job will be finished this month. Ultimately, we'll have secure and covered cycling places for those that come in to cycle. We'll have a maintenance space and stands and tools and equipment. We've scheduled in doctor bike sessions for the people that come in with their bikes. So that's our project. I'll hand it back to you, Sheila.
Thanks so much for that.
Have I gone over my time, or?
No, that's great. That's perfect. I also love the honesty that you showed us inside the shed in a photo in the presentation, not just on our visit. So no, I really like the fact that you're working with what you already got. And I think it's a really nice example that we're not needing always to choose shiny new bits of infrastructure, but we can just make improvements to existing resources. So that's really great. Craig, are you ready to go with your presentation or a wee bit of information about your project?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
I'll hopefully be able to share the screen. I haven't made a fancy presentation, but I will just go with a few pictures and kind of talk to where we are with our project. So we are a charity, a football charity based in Inverness, who have been kind of attached to the back of the stadium and kind of porta cabins that look quite similar to the ones we've just seen, to be honest. But we've now got a purpose-built facility at the old Inverness Royal Academy playing fields, an area in Inverness which was underused, was in a bit of disrepair. Knee-height grass, I think, was when we signed our lease and moved in at the beginning, is what we were dealing with, and it's now looking pretty spectacular outside with the kind of grass works done and the building complete. But we were kind of looking at how staff and visitors used the site, and as there was no infrastructure over here at all, it was active travel became a big part of planning for the project. There's no car park. Well, there's car parking space for 7 cars. We're expecting visitors to be in the kind of hundreds every week. So how we're going to achieve that, and cycle shelters, definitely a project I've been involved in before at the football club, for supporters to be able to come to games and park up the bikes securely. This was a project where we can hopefully guide our kind of mission statement is kind of health and fitness, it's mental and physical health. So it doesn't just need to be in the contact time that we do our sessions and activities with people. It can also be in how you get there. And that's kind of how we came onto the cycle shelter project and did it here. Currently the site is half open. It opens officially this month on the 21st. And from there, hopefully we'll see a big uptake in people wheeling and walking to the site. But we have had a couple of test activities, and there has been bikes in the bike shelter already, which is excellent. And hopefully we can just build on what goes from there. A lot of the activity that we run is football based, but getting people to think differently about how they travel is a tool that we've used in schools and things in the past when we're doing things. So to be set up on our own site, to have that and have the opportunity to have a funded bike shelter was just excellent for us. The journey to get here, as I think all people who get grant funding kind of come across, has been less straightforward. And we do have a cycle shelter, which is excellent. However, we suffered some challenges on the way in terms of the shelter was actually delivered late by the supplier. So we had the contractors booked in to come and build it as part of the build job. And unfortunately, the shelter wasn't here when they were ready to put it together. So we kind of had to kind of park that for a bit and wait for a bit another date when they did come. Kind of the second major challenge we had was that the shelter came with no instructions. So it was delivered flat pack on 2 pallets, and there was a box, and we just thought, excellent, everything's going to be in this box we need. Opened it up, all it was to fix things, and it was a bit of a challenge to put it together and work out how best to work the shelter. So we kind of went with one that is in fitting with what we're doing. You can see it kind of on the screen there. It's a wooden exterior shelter with kind of black metal, which goes in fitting with the planning for the rest of the site. So it's slightly different than some of the shelters that we see, but for us, it works really well as it fits in with the kind of what we're doing. It's right next to an entrance, and as we go and plan the site further, we're hoping that the entrance that's next to will be generally the wheeled and walking entrance, and cars will hopefully, if they do come to the site, will come in a different way, which will kind of make this a dedicated kind of area for it. We definitely felt the process kind of getting to this point and working with HITRANS has been excellent. Communication throughout the process, I think we've had to have a few chats as things have gone on to get here, which is always good to feel supported. So I'd say that it's definitely something to reiterate to everyone, is to openly talk to the funders. And I think the project we've just delivered has had delays, not maybe so much on the bike side, but on everything else. And one of the bits of feedback I got from one of the other funders was the fact that we were open and willing to step forward and just be honest and say where you're at and why you're at that point is really important for funders to plan, and also appreciate that these projects do come with delays. But I definitely think for us it's been a very, very positive experience. And despite the simple challenges we've had there, it's up and running, getting bikes in it and getting people thinking differently. We've got one staff member who now cycles to work very regularly. He had an electric bike before, had nowhere to put it, sitting outside in the rain, trying to throw it in with equipment and other things. It isn't kind of ideal if you spend that money on that sort of transport, but he's regularly using that. Our participants, for like our older participants in walking football and football memories that have been up on site, have taken bikes, and it's just nice to be able to offer them kind of secure storage that's reasonably dry. And the shelter itself was built with a bit of imagination, so it doesn't look like that from the manufacturer. There's a wee bit added onto it to kind of make it a little bit more weatherproof, as I think I've seen the comments earlier about Highland weather and rain coming in, not just straight down, which is definitely a thing. So we have built it with the wood kind of touching each other without the gaps to try and prevent damage to the bikes on the inside, and just, you know, encourage people to use it because it is the best for the purpose it can be. And I think our next steps, having the visit from you guys during the past week was really nice to see funders come out and see the project. But it's given us some ideas about the future and what else we can add to the site and how we can build on where we're currently at and what it's going to look like in a year's time and 10 years' time and things like that. It's very much part of our future planning to really embed active travel into everything we're trying to do here. And the start of one cycle shelter might just be the start of multiple projects like this to really make the site a hotbed and hub for active travel. So I definitely say a very positive experience being part of it, and recommend anyone just to reach out and speak to whichever fund that you're looking to apply to, and just work with funders as much as possible, because honesty is definitely the best policy in doing this. But we've also coloured it to be the same as the building, so it's in keeping in terms of the colour scheme throughout the planning and site, which has been excellent. So I can't speak highly enough of the grant and everything we've done. But yes, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Craig. That's really great to hear. And yeah, I'd echo what you were saying about just be honest. Like things don't always go the way you'd like. So speaking about honesty is really helpful. So Donald, are you available to hop in and just talk to your slides just now?
Yeah. Hi, folks. I'll just start sharing my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, that's up now. Thanks.
Excellent. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to join this call. Really fascinating to hear from the others earlier as well. So my name's Donald Hall and I run Community Connections. We're a small but mighty charity based down here in Aviemore. And our mission is all about providing accessible transport and wellbeing opportunities. And I think cycling and bikes can really play a part in that as well. So we were set up in the late 90s, and it was a really simple thing around community transport to address local transport poverty, which is what we all kind of talk about now. And that was done through a simple car scheme where we matched volunteers with their own cars to people that needed a lift to different appointments. That still very much goes on, but as you'll see, we've grown a lot since the late 90s. Those that are familiar with this area know it's quite a big area, Badenoch and Strathspey, and we have around 14,000 locals living there, but obviously the population booms around the holiday period and with tourists and visitors as well. So we've grown considerably over the years, and our purpose and mission has remained the same around well-being, around accessible transport, and reducing isolation and loneliness. So transport's the golden thread of what we do, although as you can see from the list there, we do a lot more than just transport. And something with cycling has always been a key driver for us. So we have an e-trike project, and that's actually how I first got involved with the organisation as a volunteer many years ago. And we thought by being part of this scheme with the Active Travel Grant, we get an e-cargo bike to add to the fleet as well. You can see we work with a lot of different users, around 400 directly. We rely on volunteers, and we have a dedicated team of 8 staff that support everything that we do. So one of the big things for us was getting to be part of a trial with an e-cargo bike through the National Park and the Cairngorms Trust. And you can see the picture taken there. I think that might have been last summer or last winter. We got together and we borrowed that e-cargo bike and took some staff down, and the local bike shop were really supportive. We just had a go and see how it worked, and that was really good, really useful. A kind of try before you buy. Some of us on the staff team have quite a lot of experience with bikes and active travel, so we saw a massive opportunity with this. And like Craig spoke about there, we spoke to our funders, and HITRANS and the team were really good, to work with around setting up the project and thinking about it. Health and well-being, green travel. This is a fantastic opportunity for us to use the likes of an e-cargo bike instead of a vehicle. It may also encourage different volunteers, takes a vehicle off the road, and it's just a nice thing to do to get out in the fresh air. We all spend a lot of time in meetings and sitting in front of screens, so we just thought it was a win-win, and it would add to our fleet. So you saw in the earlier picture we have minibuses and cars, and an e-trike or two. And now this bike's part of that fleet. crucially, we've got a trailer, a big trailer where we can move the e-trikes and now the e-cargo bike to different events if we need to, and that really will unlock future opportunities for us too. So key things, yeah, just getting people involved, getting buy-in from the early days, letting people shape the project, have a shot of it, feedback, because not everybody's into cycling or as passionate about it as others. You know, simple things like chatting to volunteers, people that we know that are keen on cycling, and you know, letting them see it, creating a bit of buzz around it. And that really happened at community events as well, where people were drawn to us to speak about the bike. The bike in the picture there is the one that we purchased, so the exact same model as the trial. And you know, great, we could even get it the same color as our vehicles too. The bike shop, as I said earlier, were fantastic to work with, and they're literally 100 meters away from us. So we're giving business back to the local community, but we've got that support around maintenance, around inductions, around anything like that. And working with Sheila and the team at HITRANS, it was all really straightforward. The bike cost, with the extras, it cost about £3,800, and it all moved pretty fast. So we've just had quite a bad winter, or a good winter, depending on how you look at it, but the bike was safely stored away when it was snowy or we had the salt on the roads. However, we're now starting to think, getting it back out there, thinking how we can use it, encouraging people to give it a try, and try and use it for different activities as well. And the ultimate thing I've underlined there is try. So some things might not work, or some people might not like it. It rides a bit differently to a normal bike. However, it's much easier than some of the bigger cargo bikes that are on the market. Some quick successes, and these have been spoken about by the others as well, is just that wee behaviour change bit that a member of the team then went away and bought their own e-bike, which is fantastic. And then, as I say, we're getting a lot of attention when we take the bike along to community events too. We're also feeding into wider discussions about the layout of the villages and active travel routes and things like that too. So, you know, this is an important part of our fleet now, and we want to do even more around active travel. That's my details there, and this was a picture taken last September where we launched the bike alongside the launch of a new minibus that was funded by the Highland Cross event. So a fantastic way to showcase the project and combine it with some other, you know, great use too. There are my details on the bottom if anybody wants to chat further about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Donald. That was great to see. And yeah, I absolutely loved that you are immediately referring to your new bike as part of your fleet, which is, yeah, it's great. It's exactly what it is. So yeah, it's really great to hear, and also great to hear about that behavior change you're already seeing within your team. So yeah. We're now moving into our Q&A part. So yeah, I can see I've not been looking at the chat. I've also been focused on making sure all the slides and what have you work. So I can see that the chat's got a fair amount in it. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, either for us within HITRANS or any of our presenters about their project and their learning, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Brenda, you have your hand.
Hi. Yeah, Brenda.
Hi.
I'm joining on behalf of Burnera Community Association. Yeah, I was wondering if there was any way that we could get funding for doctor bike sessions alongside the cycle parking, because I think if we provide cycle parking, there's probably a lot of people who've got bikes they haven't used for a while, and they might need a bit of attention to get them usable again. Doesn't look like we can do that though. On the community
I'd say
grants.
it might not fit with these models of grants, but it's worth getting in touch, because when we get our funding confirmed from Transport Scotland, it might fit with one of our other funding streams. So
okay.
yeah, do drop us a line with what you are thinking would work, and it might fit within something within the Smart Travel Choices project that's not part of this grant scheme. So,
and well, I've got the floor. If I could that's my second question, which was, see, one of your criteria was about shelter from the elements, then Laura kindly put some information about the velo boxes or velo boxes. I had a quick look at those, and I don't think they'd be suitable for a coastal environment because they're like just aluminium powder coated, and probably to get that in stainless steel would cost an absolute fortune. And we're also in gosh, what's it called, a national scenic area, so I'm pretty sure we'd have to get planning consent, which, you know, is extra sort of delay and things like that. But is that absolutely critical to have a sort of, you know, sheltered cycle scheme? Because I mean, people are cycle parking because when they're cycling, they're not sheltered. Is that you know, it would be much simpler if we just put. I was just thinking of putting up bike racks rather than the shelter. So also then you've got a lot more complicated foundations. You probably need an engineer to design the foundations and things like that, so it doesn't blow away. Any thoughts on that? From would you are you okay for if you know, is it critical to have a sort of a bike parking sheltered from the elements?
is this for a community cycle parking application? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Becca, do you want
sorry.
to say?
Yeah, no, you don't have to have the shelter as well.
Yeah. It just reduces a lot of complexity to it, and it'd be nice just to keep it fairly simple. But I take your point about looking at guidance on siting it, making sure it's lit and everything. But I can just see like anything metal up here rusts unless it's really good quality stainless steel. So
yeah, of course.
And possibly blows away as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, obviously, that, you know, your application is tailored to your specific site, and, you know, if that's a real consideration, then yeah, that's absolutely fine. You can just outline that in your application, and yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Cheers, thank you.
Can I just jump in? And also, I know one of our colleagues and partners, Neil Ingram, has had lots of experience of making sure infrastructure survives challenging conditions.
I used to work with Neil in Glasgow. Then we both ended up here. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, I definitely recommend picking his brains.
That's a good
Anything
suggestion.
from like even just different requirements of bases that might cope with different winds for the different loads, or he's been quite good at choosing things like different brands of repair stand that are a bit better for just dealing with.
Could you explain what a repair stand is? Because I've not.
Absolutely.
Is it something where you take your bike off so you can take the wheel off or something, as opposed to turning it upside down?
Basically it's a static stand in a public place, and it allows you to just to lift the bike up. Often you'll just hook it up by the saddle. I guess ones you might have at home, you'd have a clamp, you'd adjust it to your bike, but it tends to be just a little section. You pop your bike up, and then there'll be tools available, often on chains, so they don't get nicked, and also with a track pump, which is really great for just helping deal with sort of some of the most simple things that can go wrong with a bike. It's a really great way, in a public place, of just helping people look after their bike. A lot of barriers people cite is if they're not used to using a bike, they worry, what if I get a puncture? Which if we jump in our cars, we don't go, what if I get a puncture? It can happen also. But yeah, I think when you're changing something new, it's a worry. So these are really great for just helping people. And also it means if you happen to have got your puncture on your way to work, it means you don't need to worry about how you'll get home again. It means you've got something that might help you. So yeah, a lot of places have them, either public spaces, sort of like transport hubs, that sort of thing. Some workplaces are choosing them too. So yeah, they can be pretty good. Sometimes that you'll see that they don't always last so well. So sometimes the tools seize up and start to look a bit rusty and sad. So they do sometimes need replacing. But yeah, they're a good facility to help support people choosing to cycle and help sort of allay those worries about having to deal with things like punctures.
I wouldn't put any tools outside here. They wouldn't last very long in terms of corrosion.
Yeah,
Can you put them
absolutely.
inside?
Yeah, sometimes some of them have like a little box compartment. Again, yeah. So there's some designs that just do a little bit better at weatherproofing. They probably still have limitations, but yeah. I
No, I
think in
meant
our
inside it. Can you put it inside a building?
Oh, right, yeah, they can go. Yeah, they can go inside. So, like that example, in the photos earlier, where it was inside a cycle shelter. It's not completely enclosed, but yeah, they can go inside. I think there's one I've seen in a much more enclosed cycle shelter at Regmore Hospital. So as part
Sorry,
of
I meant
their
inside a building, but
inside a building.
rather.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. If
Yeah.
they were, I guess if it's publicly accessible, yeah,
Yeah.
they often are bolted to the ground. So yeah, yeah. Got any other questions?
There was one question in the chat from Sarah about would church communities be eligible to apply?
So that would be, I guess, community cycle
Community?
parking.
Yeah, to be eligible.
Am I right in thinking, William, have you joined us from Cycling Scotland?
Yes,
Do you want to
I have.
do you want to come and tell us a bit about the support that's available from you guys?
Yeah, so
Put you on the spot.
thanks. That's okay, no worries. I mean, yeah, thanks for including that slide in your presentation. I think you might have covered everything I was gonna kind of talk about. But yeah, just to say that we do have some helpful resources and guidance on our website, so please feel free to have a look at those. And I can include the link to the webpage. I think I have included the link to the webpage in the chat. So yeah, just check those out, and then if you do have any kind of particular worries or questions, you can get in touch by email, and I can also paste that email address in the chat. But yeah, thanks for that useful presentation. It was really nice to hear some of the case studies as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, there's some really lovely projects. Actually, yeah, it's hard choosing, but yeah, when we did our site visits, it was just really uplifting just to see all the great work. And yeah, and sometimes things crop up, we get delays, so great to see how well managed they are. And yeah.
I think Brenda was suggesting any suppliers for bike repair stands.
I've looked at the Grease Monkey ones that's on the link. Is there anything else, William? Or anybody that knows?
Is that particularly for suppliers or?
Yeah,
Okay, if you scroll down to the bottom of the document, there's a list of commonly.
Yeah, I've just seen that. Yeah, I've seen. See, Grease Monkey looks to be one.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think most of the other ones are like just storage. But yeah, is there any others other than Grease Monkey?
There should be a few. Yeah. Let me just.
I think Roxap do one as well. I've just put that in the chat.
Do they?
Yeah, Falco as well should do them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
I'd just say it's worth checking for any of the suppliers, like just check what their delivery charges and lead times are for Highlands and Islands locations. Because I've had a few folk that have seen really lovely looking equipment, are all set to go for it, and then they get stung with a kind of increased charge for delivery to our area.
Yeah,
which is
that's all right. Yeah, we know about that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up
just tell them to send it to Inverness and somebody else brings it over. Yeah, I can't see Falco. I can't see any repair stands in Falco, but there is the Grease Monkey one, so at least that's one.
I've just had a look at my photos from the Regmore one, because I remember seeing that as being a different make to I've previously seen. It says the photo I've got of it. It says lockitsafe.co.uk. So It's not one of the manufacturers that I was familiar with, but I presume there's a few out there. You'll have seen William as well, but
yeah, they're all storage solutions.
Mm.
So, but yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, do have a look through. I mean, this isn't technically I guess my specialty, but do reach out to us by email if you're looking for particular advice, and someone in the team would be able to help.
Okay, thanks.
It's okay.
Without trying to generate lots more work for Neil, but I think last year in the webinar he recommended a repair stand that he felt worked well in the Western Isles. So
okay, I'll
do
check
just
with Neil.
ask him.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what he said, I'll be honest, from a year ago, but he did mention one that he felt was effective.
Oh, that's good.
So
okay.
Or more effective. Maybe more effective is fair.
Yeah.
Christina, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd come in on the because you mentioned the Regmore stand, the repair stand. I didn't realise it's so Lockett Safe is the new secured or newish secured cycle storage shelter that we've got at Regmore, and I wasn't actually sure whether if it was them that had supplied the repair stand, but I guess it must have been. But it was just on that subject in terms of shelters. Of course, there's loads of different shelters out there, so it's useful to have advice on which shelters to go with. And I think our experience with the shelter that we got, which I found really difficult to deal with the company on, is that so it's 2-tier, and then actually when you have the top tier directly above the bottom tier, then when there's a bike underneath, you can't actually use the top tier stand. So it's just a little word of warning for people who are looking into that if you are getting a 2-tier bike storage, then try and make sure that the top and the bottom tier stands are offset a little bit, because just getting this sorted out retrospectively is proven completely impossible for us.
Sounds a bit frustrating, Christina. Yeah, I have looked at that cycle storage. It's not like a cycle storage nerd here, but also when you see them out and about, people prefer to put low down. So it's great that you get that increased capacity of having that same space, but then some bikes up higher. But certainly you can kind of, I think when I was last looking at Regmore, I saw people were locking their bikes to the legs of the shelter rather than going up high, and there were spaces, but it was just the preferences down low. So yeah, or
Which
maybe
is a
that was
shame,
your
'cause
issue. They couldn't.
Well, I think it might be the issue, because I normally put my bike up in the top tier, because I think it's safer up there. Even though I've got an e-bike, it's hydraulic assisted, so it's easy enough to put it there. I think people are just a bit worried about how to do it. But then sometimes I've become a bit stuck because someone has then parked underneath me, and then it's difficult for me to get my bike off.
Yeah, and that's all really tricky. Like that's a design issue, isn't it, with the manufacturer? So really hard to expect if that if they're
then if they won't listen to feedback, that becomes really tricky.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Oh, Ian, you have your hand up.
Hi, Sheila. It's really just a shout out to say that quite often the purchasing a kit can be relatively straightforward, and what sometimes trips people up is the groundswork, and the planning and the execution of curbing, drainage, pavings, that sort of thing. So it's really just an offer to say that we had a really good experience actually with an organization that didn't use these what would be perceived as smaller jobs as fill-in for the larger ones and can cause delay. And if anyone was interested in getting a reputable organization that would do some groundswork for you, maybe just get in touch with me through yourself, Sheila, and I'd be happy to, have anyone down to the site to see what they did and just give any, recommendations and advice on that in that respect.
Excellent, thanks. It's worth saying you're based in Inverness, so I don't know how far and wide your contractor prepares to travel, but yeah, no, that's really good. And actually, I think when you showed us your project, one of the things I took away from it is that you'd factored in drainage, and that's just really important because sometimes we have lovely sunny dry weather and sometimes we don't. So actually it's not just about the shelter, sometimes actually having the site being well drained and recognizing if you're doing development, there's that opportunity to just assess whether you need to improve drainage as well. So yeah, that was good. And yeah, good to have a good recommendation as well.
Yep. Thanks.
Has anyone got any further questions? We're also happy if people think of stuff after the session, because that's the way it goes sometimes. Definitely just drop us a line. You can ask us, any of the questions after the fact. And if there's anything that's in the chat and you think we could give you a bit more detail, then yeah, feel free to get in touch. So in fact, what I think I'll do is I'll just stick our contacts up just now. Excuse me. So that's just there, helpful. But yeah, I don't want to miss any questions. Oh, but yeah, and just another reminder there, we do have our feedback form at the start of the chat. So it's really helpful to find out if this webinar sort of done the job it was meant to do, just to help explain the grant, explain what kind of projects are eligible, what kind of organisations are eligible, if you feel better informed about our processes, that sort of thing. That'd be great to know. But yeah, I'm happy if there's more questions. We've got a little bit longer left in the session. So yeah. As I'm not going to see if anyone does put their hand up as well, since I've put our contact slide up, because it's minimized my ability to see everybody in the call. But yeah, if there's any final questions, do give us a shout. If anyone's sitting there like this going, why haven't you asked me? It's because I can't see you just now. So